Here we are again, end of 2016 here, just before the Christmas weekend. Unfortunately, the holidays this year won't kill too much of our market time since they occur over the weekend mostly. Let's take a look here at interesting trends because it looks like we are ending the year with quite some positions going into 2017 with quite the possibility for major markets heading into a trend, and on the longer time frames we may even be able to hold on to the current positions well into the new year. While 2016 hadn't been too grateful, when you take a look at the indices or some other currency pairs, you did have your correction modes, you did have your turnaround phases. They all take quite a lot of time, and trends weren't really there. Until these breakouts occur, it always takes some time, and maybe that this has happened now, but it took a lot of 2016 on the longer term to establish that. When you take a look here at the euro dollar, we have been mentioning the breakouts in this area up here, and we are now closing yet again right at these low levels at around 104, 105. The close is green for the week. As you can see, activity on Thursday and Friday was relatively thin here, but still we are holding these low levels. I wouldn't be too eager to add on into this ongoing trend what it looks like, because we are not really sure if this is really breaking through here or if we will see some sort of rejection. But for the end of the year, this position is one of the ones that we're definitely holding, since this trend in the euro dollar could be picking up where it left off on the monthly chart, and that means it wants to head down. After this correction, we have the breakout here on the monthly, and now we're hitting these all-time, no, not all-time lows, but the lows of the last couple of years, and now we might as well hit that 180 zone. This could be a trend happening in 2017. We'll have to wait and see. A lot of stuff that's going against the US dollar is actually performing here pretty well. New Zealand dollar, we had been mentioning, failing inside the balance zone, picking up the previous trend on the monthly. It could be closing next week below the balance zone, below these moving averages, which confirms that the trend remains down. On your weekly time frame, you have a breakout being taken, and this week supporting the downwards direction as we are closing lower again, possibly heading down into these low 0.60 area. The Australian US dollar shows us very much the same picture. Breakout occurred, and now we're down. We don't know how far those will go. The recap next week might shed some light on this, as we're looking at the monthly charts a little bit closer. US dollar index also very interesting here. People are talking about this. Will this go higher? Is this topping out right here? As you can see, we are in the mode of creating a divergence. We have higher prices right now than we did over here, but the momentum on this side was the highest compared to right now. This market would really have to go quite some way to head higher here in the momentum. It's possible that we are turning at some point, but this week, the end of the year, next week most likely, will show a trend continuation kind of scenario in the US dollar to the upside. You can see that also in the US dollar Canadian forex pair last week, and also on TradingView I had been mentioning that the breakout occurred. We headed down into the balance zone, but we turned around right there, and look at where we are this week. We are closing right at that breakout. We have a fractal here, and we're most likely heading out to the upside now. It all takes time, but yet again a US dollar correlated market here that may show us some profits in 2017, while when you take a look, 2016 did not perform so well. Let's take a look at the last forex pair for the week here. British pound Australian, really unthankful compared to other British pound pairs. We are in this downtrend. We have our entries at this fractal. We have been short in here as well, but for the last 2 months this market has not been performing into the or towards the uptrend direction. And this week again, the turnaround is not visible here yet, even though we do have our fractal that we're looking for inside the balance zone, which makes for a new stop location. We're closing right near or very, very close to that stop location, and we might as well be stopped out next week or at the beginning of the new year. We don't know. We have a lot of divergences on the lower time frames. We're just following the market, and if the Australian dollar kind of ruins the weakness here in the British pound, because in the British pound US dollar you can see really well how weak the currency of Britain really is right now, we might get stopped out. This may head higher here, even though the monthly chart does not suggest such a thing. We'll really have to wait. We might as well be lucky and this continues down. We don't know. That's why we have our risk management in place, and that's why we are never risking too much, never violating our rules of when we have to exit or when we have to change the stop, because this will be the killer for our whole trade management. Next week we'll see if we are stopped out and where our current positions are located, the entries compared to where we get out, or maybe we are lucky and we'll see this week much lower next week. The indices are interesting as well, possible new trends in 2017 in my opinion here as well. We are strong up here, even though the last 2 weeks didn't do anything. Next week probably won't do anything either, and even if you have your little pullback, this looks pretty strong up here. No real attempts to go back into the balance zone, and right now we have momentum higher and the monthly of course still running this danger of forming this divergence. But still, if we can close out December like it's right now, we really bounced off that balance zone, and it might as well take us higher, at least for a little bit in 2017. We'll really have to wait and see, just following the trend, the market, the price, the money in the end. We have the same kind of picture in the FTSE. The FTSE as one of the European indexes is really interesting, as we had been mentioning the heavy supply that occurs up here, but a mere dip into the balance zone and now a rising price is the result. And the more often that we approach the same levels up here in this area, the less orders will be sitting there. They will all have been filled at some point, and when the bulls continue to be so strong as they are now here at the end of December, who knows if this hasn't been the bigger correction. We're taking that breakout fractal here at some point, and then this market heads higher. That is the current most likely scenario in my opinion, as this correction has not been deeper and we had since only been heading out. If we don't fail significantly up here, this may become a long-term uptrend in 2017. The DAX is also pretty strong here, this German index, much stronger close than the Americans, even though this breakout took much longer. We are not yet trading at all-time highs, which are right there. The US indices are doing it already. The FTSE is also there almost. The DAX and Eurostoxx index still need some time, but as you can see, the strength is quite immense and it seems to hold up. This week did not see a lot of volatility. We will have to see what next week looks like, as this is the Christmas trading period. You have a lot of participants not being there and just less volume in those markets. As a long-term trader, you don't really care about this. This is just a quiet time, but you hold your positions. And as you can see by the update today, there's quite a lot of potential for 2017. Really hoping this British pound Australian trend will continue. If not, we do have quite a lot of new opportunities in indices and various forex pairs connected to the US dollar. Let's see if we're stopped out in the British pound Australian next week, and let's do a little bit of a yearly review next week. At this point, there's nothing left but to wish you a great Christmas weekend, and we'll talk again next week.